In a world overflowing with information, the ability to think critically stands as a powerful tool, offering clarity in the face of chaos. But what exactly is critical thinking? At its core, it's the process of evaluating information rationally and compassionately, considering context, purpose, and consequence. Imagine walking through a dense forest. Without a compass, you might wander aimlessly. Critical thinking is that compass it helps you navigate decisions and understand the world around you. The term critical thinking comes from the Greek word kritikos, meaning able to judge or discern. It's about cutting through the noise to make reasoned decisions. Instead of passively accepting information, critical thinkers engage with it, questioning, analyzing, and evaluating, all while balancing empathy and fairness. Think about the last time you felt truly empowered. Perhaps it was when you knew you were making a thoughtful, compassionate decision. That's the gift of critical thinking. Knowing that your choices are grounded in reason and kindness. Why does this matter? Because every choice we make shapes not only our personal lives, but the world around us. Whether we're deciding what to believe or how to act, critical thinking ensures those decisions are thoughtful and just. It becomes easier to see things from multiple angles, ensuring our solutions are both rational and humane. Let's walk through the steps of critical thinking, each one sharpening your ability to make informed decisions. Number 1. Question your sources. Always start by questioning where your information comes from. Is the source reliable? What motives could it have? Imagine reading an article. Before accepting its claims, ask, who wrote this and why? Number 2. Identify arguments. What is being argued? What is the point? Look for the main claim being made and its supporting evidence. Number 3. Analyze the sources and arguments. Don't stop at identifying, dig deeper. What assumptions are being made? Are there any logical fallacies or biases? Imagine reading 2 conflicting reports. Which one stands up to scrutiny? Number 4. Evaluate the arguments of others. Are these arguments strong, reasonable, and fair? Do they consider the bigger picture? This is where reason and compassion meet. Evaluating not just the logic, but the human impact. Number 5. Create or synthesize your own arguments. After analyzing and evaluating, you're ready to form your own stance. This is where critical thinking shines. You're not merely regurgitating others' views, you're crafting a perspective that is both reasoned and empathetic. In the next sections, we'll apply these steps to real-world questions. Questions you might not have thought deeply about, but which affect us all. We'll explore philosophical dilemmas and examine them through the lens of critical thinking. So, stay tuned as we embark on this journey, questioning, analyzing, and uncovering truths together. Coming up next in Part 2, should all people, no matter who they are or where they come from, have the same human rights as you do? This fundamental question invites us to explore equality and fairness in a way that will challenge our assumptions and engage our sense of justice. Let's dive right into this profound question. Should all people, no matter who they are or where they come from, have the same human rights as you? It may seem like an easy yes, but when we think critically about it, the depth of this question expands. By breaking it down with the steps of critical thinking, we can see not only why this question matters, but how our answer reflects our values of reason and compassion. First, let's question the sources of information. What do we mean by human rights? Where did this idea come from? The concept of human rights, as we understand it today, largely stems from documents like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. But before that, rights were often determined by class, gender, or nationality. So, who is telling us that all humans deserve the same rights, and why? It's essential to consider historical and cultural contexts. Do all societies agree on what human rights are? Should they? Now, let's identify the arguments. The argument for equal human rights suggests that every person, regardless of identity or origin, deserves fundamental rights like freedom, education, and protection under the law. The opposing view might argue that differences in culture, politics, or social standing could justify unequal rights. How do we respond to these claims? Here, reason tells us to focus on consistency. If we believe in fairness and justice, can we exclude certain groups from that belief? Next, we analyze the sources and arguments. Human rights are often seen as universal, but we must question if this ideal is truly upheld. Are there hidden assumptions? Many societies still struggle with implementing these ideals equitably. Think of refugee crises, discrimination, or unequal access to education and healthcare, or time off. Are these situations a failure of human rights, or do they reflect deeper systemic problems? To analyze this thoroughly, we need to look at the reality of how rights are practiced across the world. Then, we evaluate the arguments of others. Consider the argument that cultural or national differences justify unequal rights. Does this hold up under scrutiny? A compassionate perspective would question whether it's ethical to deny basic rights based on where someone is born. Reason leads us to think about equality. If we as humans deserve rights, should we not extend the same rights to others, regardless of nationality or background? We must ask ourselves, would I want to be denied my human rights if I were in their shoes? Finally, we create or synthesize our own argument. After examining the issue from all sides, we're better equipped to form a well-reasoned conclusion. We may determine that while cultural and national differences exist, they don't justify denying people fundamental rights. A reasonable and compassionate view might argue that all humans, simply by being human, deserve respect, dignity, and fairness. So, what's the answer? Yes, all people, no matter who they are or where they come from, should have the same human rights as you. The reasoning behind this lies in the principles of fairness and the shared human experience. Compassion tells us to treat others as we would want to be treated, and reason guides us to ensure that our judgments are fair and consistent. Watch our videos on human rights for a deeper dive into the subject. In the next section, we will tackle another critical issue. Should we all do more to mitigate climate change? This question invites us to think about the relationship between humanity and the planet, our responsibility to future generations, and the urgency of our actions. Stay tuned as we use the same critical thinking process to explore this pressing matter. Now, we turn our attention to one of the most urgent issues of our time. Should we all do more to mitigate climate change? At first glance, the answer might seem obvious. Of course we should. But by breaking this down with the steps of critical thinking, we can truly grasp the complexities of the issue and see how it relates to reason, compassion, and our shared future. We begin by questioning the sources of information. Where does our understanding of climate change come from? Scientific consensus, reports by organizations like the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, and environmental advocacy groups are key sources. But there are also voices that downplay the seriousness of climate change, whether for economic, political, or personal reasons. It's crucial to assess these sources critically. What are their motives, credibility, and evidence? Next, we identify the arguments. On one side, the argument is that climate change is a clear and present danger, impacting everything from sea levels to global food security. Proponents argue that immediate action is needed to reduce emissions, shift to renewable energy, and protect ecosystems. On the other side, some argue that efforts to mitigate climate change are too costly or that technological advances will naturally resolve the issue over time. These denialists often downplay the urgency or even the existence of the problem. We now analyze the sources and arguments. The vast majority of climate scientists agree that human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels, are accelerating climate change. The evidence, including rising temperatures, more frequent natural disasters, and shrinking ice caps, is overwhelming. But is it enough to simply accept the science? How do the opposing arguments hold up? Critics often rely on short-term economic interests, ignoring the long-term cost of inaction. When we analyze these arguments, we see that those resisting climate action often fail to consider the full scope of harm, especially to future generations. Moving forward, we evaluate the arguments of others. Skeptics may argue that climate mitigation efforts hurt economic growth or individual freedoms. But here, reason and compassion come together. What's the bigger picture? Will short-term sacrifices, like investing in green technologies or changing consumption habits, ultimately prevent much greater harm? Evaluating these arguments requires us to balance immediate costs with long-term benefits. Compassionately, we must consider how climate change disproportionately affects poorer communities and future generations. Should we act only for ourselves or for those who will inherit this planet? Now, we create or synthesize our own argument. After weighing the evidence and considering both sides, a well-reasoned conclusion emerges. Yes, we must all do more to mitigate climate change. The urgency of the issue demands collective action. And while the economic and lifestyle adjustments may be challenging, the long-term benefits preserving ecosystems, reducing extreme weather events, and ensuring a livable planet far outweigh the costs. Compassion drives us to care for those most vulnerable to climate change's effects, while reason guides us to make thoughtful, strategic changes in our energy use, consumption, and policies. So, what's the answer? We all should do more to mitigate climate change. This isn't just a question of environmental responsibility, but one of justice, compassion, and foresight. Our actions today determine the quality of life for generations to come, and it's our duty to leave behind a world that's thriving, not crumbling. Watch our videos on climate change for a deeper dive into the subject. In the next section, we'll explore another pressing question. Is the growing wealth gap good for society, government, and human rights? This topic delves into the economic divide, social justice, and how the distribution of wealth affects us all. Stay tuned as we apply the same critical thinking process to dissect this challenging issue. Now, we delve into one of the most debated issues of our time. Is the growing wealth gap good for society, government, and human rights? The divide between the rich and the poor continues to widen, but should we be concerned? By using our critical thinking framework, we'll unpack this question and understand its implications on society as a whole. We begin by questioning the sources of information. When we talk about the wealth gap, where do our facts and figures come from? Reports by organizations like Oxfam and the World Bank, economists, and social justice advocates have long been warning of the dangers of wealth inequality. However, proponents of capitalism and free markets might argue that inequality drives innovation and economic growth. Who's right? It's essential to question the biases and motivations behind these sources. Are we hearing from a broad range of voices, or are certain interests skewing the narrative? Next, let's identify the arguments. On one side, the argument is that wealth inequality harms society by concentrating power in the hands of a few and limiting opportunities for the many. It contributes to social unrest, weakens democracy, and leads to unequal access to education, healthcare, and basic rights. The opposing argument suggests that inequality is a natural outcome of meritocracy. The more talented or hard-working individuals succeed, and the rewards drive economic progress. But does this trickle-down theory hold true in practice? We now analyze the sources and arguments. Historical and contemporary examples show that extreme inequality can destabilize societies. Ancient Rome, for instance, faced political unrest and civil wars, in part due to growing wealth disparities between the elite and the common people, as we've discussed in our other videos. Similarly, in today's world, rising inequality is linked to increased crime rates, weakened civic engagement, and the erosion of trust in governmental institutions, as well as a lower quality of life for much of the world's inhabitants. On the other hand, proponents of wealth inequality might point to economic booms or technological advancements driven by wealthy entrepreneurs. But is this the full picture? Does their success trickle down to benefit everyone, or does it further entrench the elite? Moving on, we evaluate the arguments of others. The argument that inequality drives economic innovation falls apart when we consider the long-term consequences. While some degree of inequality may be inevitable in any society, excessive wealth concentration leads to systemic problems. It weakens democracy because the ultra-wealthy can influence politics disproportionately, leading to policies that benefit them at the expense of the broader population, as we have seen with money in politics, especially after the Citizens United ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court. Reason tells us that a healthy society should have a balanced distribution of wealth, where opportunities are available to all, not just the privileged few. Compassion tells us that growing poverty and lack of opportunity for millions of people is an injustice that demands our attention. Finally, we create or synthesize our own argument. After critically examining the evidence, we can conclude that the growing wealth gap is detrimental to society, government, human rights, and climate change mitigation. Inequality undermines the very fabric of democracy by concentrating power among the elite, while leaving vast portions of the population marginalized. It creates a cycle where the rich get richer and the poor remain trapped in poverty, unable to access the opportunities that could lift them up. A reasonable and compassionate approach would involve policies that promote wealth redistribution, fair taxation, and access to essential services for all. So, what's the answer? The growing wealth gap is not good for society, government, or human rights. Instead, it threatens social cohesion, erodes trust in democratic institutions, and perpetuates cycles of poverty. We must advocate for policies that address these disparities and create a more just and equitable world. In the next section, we'll bring everything together with a reflection on how critical thinking fits into the broader philosophy of the Renaissance spirit. Stay tuned for the final part, where we explore how embracing reason, compassion, and historical wisdom can help us navigate the challenges we face today. As we've explored these pressing questions, from human rights to climate change to wealth inequality, one thing is clear: critical thinking is indispensable. It's not just a tool for analysis, It's a way to understand our world and make decisions grounded in reason and compassion. By questioning, analyzing, and evaluating the information around us, we can shape a better, more just society. But how does this all tie into the broader philosophy of the Renaissance spirit for which our channel is named? The Renaissance spirit is rooted in the pursuit of truth, knowledge, and the betterment of humanity, drawing inspiration from the Renaissance's golden age. This mindset emphasizes the importance of engaging with history, learning from it, and applying its lessons to our modern world. Critical thinking is the lifeblood of this philosophy. It allows us to connect the past with the present and future, ensuring that our actions are guided by reason, justice, and empathy. Consider what we've uncovered through this journey. Each topic, human rights, climate change, wealth inequality, holds significant weight in our current political and social landscape. These are not just abstract ideas. They directly affect the quality of life for people around the globe. Through the process of critical thinking, we've seen that these issues require thoughtful, compassionate solutions that promote equity and justice for all. And isn't that at the heart of the Renaissance spirit? A dedication to creating a just and humanitarian world, rooted in a deep understanding of history, philosophy, and the shared values of human dignity. The Renaissance was a time when thinkers, artists, and scholars began to reawaken the world's potential by rediscovering lost knowledge and pioneering new ideas. It gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason, revolutions in human thought that have shaped modern society. The Renaissance spirit challenges us to carry that torch forward, to be modern polymaths who embrace truth, knowledge, and a commitment to justice in every aspect of life. So how does critical thinking fit into this grand vision? It fosters justice. By questioning sources of authority and analyzing arguments, we can discern the truth in complex issues and advocate for fair, ethical solutions. This ensures that our decisions, whether personal or political, are not driven by ignorance or bias, but by reason and compassion. It promotes equity. When we evaluate the impact of our decisions on different groups of people, we begin to see where injustice and inequality lurk. A critical thinker doesn't just accept things as they are. They question how things should be and work toward a fairer society. It enriches understanding. Through critical thinking, we engage deeply with ideas and gain a clearer, broader perspective on the world. We learn not only from contemporary issues, but from history itself, drawing timeless lessons from figures like Cicero or moments like the Renaissance. Living the Renaissance spirit means more than just appreciating art or reading philosophy. It's about engaging actively with the world's challenges, using reason and compassion to shape our future. We are at a critical juncture facing climate change, political division, and widespread inequality, and we must decide what kind of world we want to leave for future generations. Will it be one shaped by greed, ignorance, apathy, and fear? Or will it be a world where justice, knowledge, and equity reign? Vive Renaissance Spiritus. This is the call to action. As you engage with these ideas, ask yourself, what can I do to embody this spirit? Perhaps it's advocating for human rights, fighting for environmental sustainability, or championing economic fairness. Perhaps it's educating yourself on history and politics, becoming a better thinker, or sharing these ideas with others. Whatever path you choose, know that you are part of a larger movement dedicated to making the world a better place. Take the journey further. Explore your own capacity for critical thinking. Engage with historical insights and join the conversation. The Renaissance spirit is a reminder that the world is not a static place. It is constantly being shaped by the minds and hearts of those who dare to think, question, and act. Will you be one of them? Living the Renaissance spirit means living in harmony with wisdom, history, and the pursuit of justice. It's not merely a philosophy, it's a way of life, a commitment to learning, growing, and making the world a better place. As we conclude, remember that the legacy we leave depends on how we choose to act today. Will future generations see us as the protectors of democracy, stewards of the earth, and champions of justice? The power is in your hands. Subscribe, share, and join us on this journey. Together, we can carry the torch of the Renaissance into a brighter, more just future. Thank you for walking this path of reason, knowledge, and compassion with us. Please take the quiz next to see if you're living the Renaissance spirit.